Turkish Foreign Ministry spokesman has confirmed that the reciprocatory sanctions that Turkey had placed on two US officials have been lifted. And this includes lifting on the travel ban that had been imposed on them, as well as the unfreezing of any of their assets in Turkey, and also the restriction that was in place in any sort of dealing with those two US officials, the US Attorney General, as well as the US Secretary of Homeland Security. Now, Ankara's position has been that the US had been demanding the freedom of Pastor Andrew Brunson immediately, but Ankara's position had been that that matter was for the court to decide, and that the Turkish government would not intervene in that matter. Now, the Turkish court, of course, had convicted Pastor Andrew Brunson for 3 years, a month, and 15 days, and because of the time he had already served in jail, he was released. So at the moment, Ankara has lifted the sanctions that had been placed on those two US officials. And the officials here, however, are saying that from Ankara's point of view, Pastor Andrew Brunson was not part of the equation, and the United States should have not tried to influence the judicial process in Turkey.
Well, Hasan, do take us through, or how did the relationship come to this point between the two countries? Because, I mean, he was imprisoned for the past 2 years in Turkey before it became an issue.
That's right. Now, obviously, he was charged for aiding and abetting terrorist organizations, including the PKK, that's responsible for some 40,000 deaths in Turkey, as well as a FETÖ terrorist organization. Now, what Turkish officials have been maintaining throughout this process, and when there were strained relations, was that this is a matter for the court, and the United States, that likes to claim moral high ground, talking about not interfering in the judicial process, should also accord the same sort of respect to the judicial processes of other countries. So the position from the Turkish government throughout these last 2 years plus has been that only Turkish courts have the authority to decide on the matter. The government will not intervene. The government will not try and interfere in the process or influence the decision. And we saw that the Turkish court did convict him as well, contrary to the demand of the United States that he should be released immediately and the charges be dropped. So the position in Ankara is that the US should refrain from trying to influence the judicial process of other countries.